Hey, it's Obi Chukwumah of Space Equity. We're all about increasing assets and creating new space. Here to talk to you today about banker communication as it pertains to commercial loans. The communication should be led by the banker themselves. That communication should be consistent. It should happen at minimum once a week. And it's often enhanced when there's some sort of relationship built. So to give you guys context, as you know, we are franchise owners of Scooters Coffee. We are working on our first site at 5955 Roof Snow in Watauga, which is northeast Fort Worth. We found the site in November. So here's the timeline. May 2021, we signed a franchise agreement and pay our $60,000 to Scooters Coffee corporate. November, we find a piece of dirt that we like. We negotiate for a little while. January, we agree to negotiations, contract goes hard. In December, our wonderful bank, First Capital Bank, had our financing approved subject to SBA. From that point on, that was when the timeline started. And we went with original firm that I had a relationship with because I'd sent business to this individual and closed business with this individual. Unfortunately, the communication wasn't great. Hey, it's that part 2 of banker communication, space and equity. So December 2021, First Capital Bank has our approval subject to SBA, meaning they're comfortable doing that if they have an SBA guarantee on the transaction. Why? We're a startup business. We don't know the coffee business well enough yet for them to feel comfortable underwriting without the SBA support. So December 2021, my banker says, hey, I've got a guy. Capital CDC, we've done business with them, great guy. I said, that's cool. I got this guy named Richard I've been working with. I'm gonna go that route. He said, okay, no big deal. And then he's already had his approval. Starting to get March, not much feedback, even though there's a lot of communication back and forth, not much feedback. So in April, he's like, you might want to check out my guy. I talked to his guy. I get great vibes, but I'm like, I'm loyal, I'm gonna stay with my guy. My guy completely drops the ball, and come to find out, really at the end of the day, that the credit package hadn't truly been examined. It was one of those like, I got these deals in the pipeline, and that's kind of on the side, I might get to it. A little frustrated. So in May, we decided to make a shift. But this time I decided to make a shift. I'm reaching out to Capital CDC, and I'm protecting ourselves, which I think, by having another fire in the hopper. So part 3, the hedge. So now we've got one firm going on the SBA 504 to build this Scooters Coffee 700 square foot facility on a half acre of land in Watauga, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas. The SBA 504, it's designed for equipment and real estate. So the SBA will get together with what's called a certified development corporation. These guys are qualified to underwrite on the behalf of the SBA, and then they collect what's essentially bonds from the local community to actually put capital in the transaction, but the SBA still approves. So we have the SBA 504, and then we have the SBA 7A. SBA 7A is more generic than any transaction that requires an extra boost. You've got collateral, you've got cash flow, you've got capital. If any of those things have a shortfall in experience, SBA is designed to help bring those type of transactions to the front, because their goal and their aim is to make sure that the small business lender, the brand new entrepreneur has the resources they have. So we got SBA 504 with a new partner that my bank has recommended, and then we have SBA 7A with a partner that came from the Scooters pipeline, actually, because there's so many loans that are happening right now for Scooters, they have a whole department that refers. So we're hedging, thinking we're protecting ourselves. SBA 504, you have it underwritten by the local CDC, and then they have to send it to the SBA. This particular 7A partner, which is more generic but more expensive, on the S7A, you're going to pay basically startup origination fees of about 2.7%, whereas a 504, you're going to pay a point, and then whatever your bank charges you. So you're going to be more expensive. And then the SBA financing on the 504 tends to be cheaper. The pricing is a lot stronger. You can go 25-year amortization on that second. And when I say 504, what I mean is that the bank is in first lien position. They have, if you have a $1.6 million loan, the bank is lending $800,000. Then the 40% part is the SBA. So 40% on that $1.6 million loan, about $320,000. In the case of a startup or a specialty like a coffee shop, they're going to do 35% the first time. And then the sponsors, which is our team, we're going to put down 15%. So you got 50 with the bank, 35 with the SBA 504, 15% equity on our part. All right, so we're working that. On the 7A side, they happen to approve 85% financing. That means that the bank, the lending office is going to do 85%. We do the 15% equity injection. The SBA guarantees 75% of the potential default. Meaning, if we get a loan, let's just call it for easy numbers, $1 million cost of the transaction. The bank lends $850,000. 75% of that is guaranteed. So team, on the face of this, the 504 is better. The 504 is cheaper, better pricing. The challenge is this: the 504 takes a long time because it's underwritten at the local CDC office, the Certified Development Corporation, and then is sent to the SBA, and then they have their underwriting time. Whereas on the 7A, we were promised, hey, we can underwrite this in 2.5 to 3 weeks. And we are approved by the SBA, meaning if they do what they're supposed to do, the underwriting is finished because the SBA is confident that they can do it. This is a unique situation though. Because of the construction, the bank is going to hold all the risk during construction, and then the 7A would take them out. Just like on the 504, the bank is going to do both loans or do it as one loan, and then when they have a certificate of occupancy, then the SBA comes in and takes out their second loan. So 7A, 504, we end up saying we're going with the 7A. So this is the second time that we've turned down the CDC as far as doing a loan, but we communicated well with them, like, hey, it's a timing thing. We're already like 60 days past where we thought we would be on construction, and then we're gonna add another 60 days. Man, that's 4 months of revenue potentially. We're gonna go with the 7A. The plot thickens. The 7A team, who we said we're gonna go with, says the communication stops. We were on that, you should be communicating once a week. In the beginning, that was the case. Then everything, all of a sudden, stuff gets quiet. And it wasn't because they said something was wrong with the credit package. So the credit package includes things like the personal financial statements of the sponsors, the tax returns of the sponsors, the tax returns of the business, the documents that you need to fill out. As a sponsor, we were strong. We had flexibility. What does that mean? It means that my wife, in her employment and her history of employment, makes a great salary, and it's a good form of flexibility. We're not relying on scooters in the immediate to feed our family. It means our business partner, Fred, he makes a great salary. He's not reliant on scooters to feed him. So even though we're a startup, that there's buffer to that. And then on top of it, because Scooters is a well-run franchise and a very involved franchise, they told us they felt confident about the credit package. All three of us have great credit scores. I actually left my strong corporate job to really pursue this entrepreneur full time. So it took away the salary that was buffering, and good salary was buffering, but we still have my wife's salary and Fred's salary. So we were strong, according to them. But we didn't get fully approved. Here's what we were told. We were told that at the 11th hour, the attorney on behalf of that 7A firm wasn't confident in doing a 7A loan with our bank. They weren't confident, but they never spoke with our bank. They didn't know what our bank had the capability of or the lack of capability. At least it's just what we were told, because sometimes there's more behind the veil, if you will. Not once did they reach out to our bank to confirm their capacity to, and what I mean by this is during the construction phase, during the draw phase, during the paperwork phase, if our bank did not properly execute the paperwork, that could compromise the 7A partner on the back end, meaning they wouldn't get the insurance that they were relying on to take this risky loan with a startup company. So they said, we are not willing to take that risk with that bank. We have a partner that we're used to working with. We want to work with that. And we weren't going to pay that new partner a bunch of fees that we've already paid our bank that we can't recover from. So they said they were unwilling to work with our partner, but this was a new nuance. At first, they also said, we have some rental properties that we own together, my wife and I own, and then we actually have a couple townhomes that we co-own with Fred. They wanted to take one of those as collateral. First, they were going to do no collateral, additional collateral beyond the coffee shop. Then it switched, like we got to get at least one piece. Then it was radio silence. Then it was we're not comfortable with your bank. So we feel like there's more to the story. Long story short, the CDC, capital CDC, stayed consistent the entire time in communication. Step one, I say, hey, we're going to work with a guy that I've already had a relationship with. They're like, we're cool. They're confident in themselves, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. Step two, we say, hey, we're going to go with the 7A partner because they're going to do a lot faster than you guys, and we can't afford the time. Even though we know in the long run that's the more expensive credit, the time is actually more expensive, losing time. We come back a third time, I guess third time's the charm. We say, hey, Frank, you've been consistent the whole time. You communicated the most out of anybody we talked to on the SBA side the whole time. We're going to go with you come hell or high water. And at this point, we got no choice. We don't want to start any new relationship, and Frank has been consistent. The banker should lead communication. In the other two examples, I was the one leading the communication. I'm the client. I just so happen to be a client that knows the process from my 14 years of experience, but the banker should show the initiative and I want to get your deal done. And Frank has done that the entire time. And even though I chose somebody else and I chose somebody else, he still remained consistent. And now as we're underwriting only with him, the proof is in the pudding that if the banker leads communication, they remain consistent, you establish a relationship, you're talking at least once a week, you should be able to get your deal done if you have the other box checked, which we have the other boxes checked as far as sponsorship is concerned, as far as the risk of the credit profile altogether. Now it's just a matter of how do we get to the finish line, because there's still some hurdles we need to cover, and we'll talk about that. But if you come correct, they can't stop you, and sometimes coming correct is realizing that, hey, you made the wrong choice in the beginning and getting back to making the right choice. Space Equity, increasing assets in a great new space.